Hello, everybody. We're just waiting for people to jump into this webinar, and then I'll start shortly. Yes, it's looking good. The numbers are still rising. We'll just give it 15 more seconds. All right. Let's just start. Well, hello and welcome to today's webinar, How to Become a Strategic Leader in IT. I'm Michelle from Marketing, and with me today I have Jakob Diness. Can you say hi?
Hi.
And I have Søren Riis-Vestergaard.
Hello, everybody.
And as you can see, Jakob and Søren are digital business advisors, and they will be the presenters of this webinar today. I will be the host and also moderate any questions that may come from you. Just some quick practical stuff. So this webinar will be around 45 minutes. And during this webinar, you can ask us questions anytime you like. If you just take your mouse and take it down to the bottom of your screen, and then you can see there's a Q&A function you can use. And I will ask the questions to Søren and Jakob whenever it's good timing for that, or in the end of the webinar. We'll also do a quick poll in the end, because we really want to keep getting better at doing these webinars. So we really like your feedback on how we're doing. Also, this webinar will be recorded, and tomorrow you will receive an email with the recording and also some other links that will help you get in contact with us or finding more content about this topic. And I will also share the recording on our YouTube channel tomorrow. Yes, I think without further ado, that was it from me. Yeah, the word over to you, Jakob.
Thank you, Michelle. And as Michelle said, I'm Jakob, and I will control the PowerPoint, but Søren and I will switch back and forth. And we hope that will work, since we are not sitting together, but in each of our apartments. All right, I'm very glad that we have so many interested in the digital and IT strategy. Last I heard, we were more than 40 people. And feel free to interrupt. Feel free to ask questions to Michelle. She promised that she would try to get the questions in during the presentation, which we are both totally fine with. So please do that. I know it can be difficult just to listen, so please feel free to ask anything. Good. So the agenda here will be the introduction, which is just a short positioning of what the whole thing about digital and IT strategy is. Then we will take you on the digital strategy journey, and we will end up with giving you some insights on the digital leadership, what we see as that. And there will be one final slide with the key takeaways before the comments and questions. So why and who? Why this topic? As you can see on the drawing with the ITIL master in the top, this is the last course of Axelos 5 courses. And I say 5, even though you can see 6 different courses at the bottom. But if you look closely, these 2 are the same. The ITIL strategist is both a course in the managing professional and in the strategic leader. So there are 5 advanced courses, and this digital and IT strategy is the last in the stream. And now ITIL 4 is finished. Besides that, we still don't know what ITIL Master is about. But now all the courses they promised are there. I am really glad that I got to teach in ITIL Leader, and I'm looking very much forward to that. We will come back to that later on. Because why is IT leader important? For me, it is important because it will take you the next step in how you practice digital leadership. It will give you a better understanding of the business strategy and the digital and IT strategy. So one of the topics is to develop a holistic digital capability framework. You will also get some input and some models on different ways to look at innovation and emerging technologies. We position this course to either you are a CTO or a business director or just a head of a department. You could be a CDO, Chief Digital Officer, or you could be anyone, leader involved in digital change, or you could be a consultant. There are many consultants that are also advising companies like Søren and I do in ways the organization can digitally transform. So there are a number of target groups here, but that's what we position the course as.
Okay, so the content that you will be presented with today is from this book, the Digital and IT Strategy book. So this is actually quite an easy read for most people. It's absolutely non-technical. As Jakob said, it's about how we can digitally transform an organization. So how we can align digital business strategy with the IT strategy and all of that as part of the overall strategy for the company. It's about disruption from new technologies and how this is both an opportunity and a threat, and how to manage that, and how the organization needs to become more and more flexible and adaptable. And we will return to that later. And digital and IT strategy elevates ITIL to a strategic level. And anyone who has been acquainted with the previous service strategy book, perhaps it's good news for you that this book has almost none of the content from the service strategy book. It has been completely rewritten, even though I was quite fond of the service strategy book, and both Jakob and I have been teaching that subject. So anyway, the digital and IT strategy book is how to build a digital strategy for your business. Yes.
Yeah, and I know, Søren, that you are one of the biggest fan of service strategy, maybe the biggest fan. So now we will take you on the digital strategy journey.
Yes,
Yeah.
The backbone of the digital and IT strategy journey is actually ITIL's continual improvement model. And the beauty of this model is that we are adapting continuously, but we're doing it controlled and systematically, and not as something where we just react to events that are happening, but we're actually continually evolving based on starting from the top. What is our vision? What is our purpose? Why are we here? What do we want to achieve as a company, as an organization? And journey, we ask ourselves, where are we now? If we don't know where we are, we have no way of knowing whether we have changed and evolved. We need to know in this situation, what are the most beneficial changes we can make to our organization, to our practices, to our services, to our customer relationship. So where do we want to be after this iteration has been conducted? So when we know where we are now and where we want to be, we have to find out how to get where we want to be, and therefore we will define an improvement plan, and we will execute this plan and put it into practice. And when we have done that, maybe 3 months, maybe 1 year, maybe 2 years. These cycles should be relatively short because the pace of change in the environment is so fast. So let's say every 6 months, every 4 months, we ask ourselves, did we get there? And how can we keep the momentum going? So this is the strategy journey. And in the DITS, the Digital and IT Strategy book, each of these steps has a chapter. Yes. Thank you.
All right. Some of the models in the book are maybe quite new to you, or you may have seen them already, but we will present a number of these models just to give you an insight in what the book and what the course contains. This is especially important for when you're trying to position yourself as a disruptor. You're talking a lot about disrupting technologies, but here you see yourself as maybe you have a disruptive product, and you can disrupt in several ways. I like this model because it you can kind of relate to that there are different levels. You can do an ecosystem disruption, which means that you will use disruptive digital technologies across the business in multiple market segments. You can do an industry disruption, which is a bit lower, where you introduce a change to a specific industry or group of related industry. Ecosystem disruption, you can think of the way iTunes transformed the music business. Industry and market kind of overlap, they're also at the same level, or it can just be an organizational disruption that you do to yourself. So these are levels, as you can see, different ways to position your company or your products in the digital disruption model. One way to look at it is that in this model, I hope you can see it to the right, that either you can be disrupted by something happening in the ecosystem, and that affects your organization. Small changes in the ecosystem create wide-reaching disruption at an organization level. That's the first part. Or something is happening in an organization that in the end will disrupt the industry and the market and maybe have a profound effort or impact on the whole ecosystem. So that is just, for me, two ways to look at it. I like this model a lot. Even though it's just a model, it has some explaining power. Okay, another good model is a model based on where you are as a company. You could also see it as a personal endeavor, but as a company, you can say, how mature are we? And you can relate that to a specific market or a specific area. Are you at the beginner's level? That's the lower left. Or are you some of these conservatives, fashionistas, or are you reaching the digital masters? And this is a classic 2x2 matrix with the digital capability and the leadership capability. So this kind of maturity model is trying to map what characteristics and capabilities the company would have in order to be successful. It doesn't give you a roadmap on how you go from beginners to digital masters, for example, but it's a kind of a mapping of where you position yourself.
Jakob, can I chip in here?
Sure.
The way I see it is that most of the companies and organizations we are meeting in the market are conservatives or beginners. And there's nothing wrong with that. Conservatives means that you don't regard yourself as a digital transformed organization yet, but you are on the journey. But you also have all your legacy and perhaps still a strong hierarchical governance. So that's, I think that's in practice, these are the profiles that we meet most often.
I totally agree, and also because you may have an existing company with a lot of existing products, and that's a different way to have a company than being a new company. So in that way, you don't have any legacy systems. So conservatives would often be found in mature companies that maybe want to try to digital disrupt themselves, or at least be more digitalized. Okay. Next, the business digital and IT strategy. I really like this way to look at the business and digital and IT strategy. And for me, that's what the whole book is about. How do you position the digital strategy? This picture is very much what was found in ITIL 3 and may also be taught at various schools, that you see the business strategy as an overlying strategy, something that you do first, and you see the digital and IT strategy as separate entities that may underpin the business strategy. Something that the IT is doing. Okay, they can do their strategy, but we in the sales or strategy department, we do the business strategy. In that way, you have a very clear division. This has some problems. So what they suggest in the book, and I very much subscribe to, is that you can see the business strategy as a whole, but the digital and IT strategy are part of that. And these two circles may be as big as the business strategy. So basically, you're having a business strategy based on digital technology. That is a different way to see it as separate entities. The IT strategy is still something about how you use your technology, but your digital strategy is how do you position yourself as a company, and how do you take in emerging technologies, for example. So here you can see that the digital strategy can be part of the business strategy, not a separate entity.
Okay, so all these considerations about who we are and where we want to position ourselves leads to the next steps in the digital strategy journey. Where are we now and where do we want to be? So these are general steps in any improvement, especially if you want to have the inspiration from ITIL using the continual improvement model, which is a generic model, but there are some specific recommendations regarding creating this. Where are we now? Where do we want to be in a digital transformation context? So we need to know what needs to change and what should remain the same. We need to know what in the environment has changed, the market, our organization, our employees, technology opportunities, technology that have become redundant, even partners and suppliers. We need to know that in order to get inspiration to where we want to be. And one recommendation is to conduct a digital readiness assessment, where we analyze our environment, our current position, capabilities, and resources regarding digital transformation, to provide a baseline for how to achieve the digital vision. So we have prioritized strategic objectives, and we have a description of our future state. And with that, we can assemble that. And please move forward, Jakob. And say, if we want to describe where we want to go, we will create a gap between where we are now and we want to be. And that gap should be closed in one or several improvement projects. And therefore, ITIL recommends that you use the digital readiness assessment to create and conduct a gap analysis where we state what we want to achieve, the objectives for the future, where we are now, what is required to achieve the future state, and on the basis of that, create a strategic roadmap, which is sort of ironically depicted on the right as sort of a long and winding road. The roadmap should be adapted continuously. We're actually helping our customers conduct a gap analysis and creating such roadmaps that give them the input to improve over time, knowing what is the first step we should take, and then review that when we have concluded that step, and then say, what should we do next, looking at the whole roadmap.
Søren?
Yes.
Sorry, I don't know if you just sort of answered that question, but there's a question that says, does digital and IT strategy present a step-by-step method for conducting gap analysis?
Oh, I'm quite happy for that question, because no, in the digital and IT strategy book, we don't get a step-by-step methodology. We are presented with models and inspiration to what should be included in a gap analysis. So a step-by-step method should be implemented, perhaps using inspiration from Business Now, or reading using other sources. Yes.
Okay.
So I think a methodology is called upon to do this.
Okay, thank you.
So besides having the strategic roadmap, we also want for the business to bridge the gap to get there. And I mean, in Business Now, because we are very keen on finding out what are the different components that you need to have in order to achieve your strategic vision. And some of the inspiration that we have had is the model to the left, called the business model. It's a very generic business model here, but you could say in a way that the business model is trying to answer the why question. Why are we in this market, and who are our customers? So that could be seen as something outside IT, but as we discussed before, the IT strategy may be 90% of the business strategy. So in that sense, it also makes sense to create a business model in relation to IT. This is from a book called Business Model Generation. I can really recommend it. It's somewhere over there on my shelf. And it's one of these books that give you a framework to put in all your good thoughts. The model to the right is the operating model. So the business model was the why and the who. Then you could say that the operating model is the how. And you can recognize things here, maybe from an ITIL Foundation course, that you have a value delivery chain. This is also known as the service value chain in ITIL 4. And on top of that, you would try to map in your suppliers, your location, your organization, information technology, and management systems. If you don't use the word value delivery chain and instead use the word processes, as they do in the book by Andrew Campbell, it kind of spells Polism, P-O-L-I-S-M. That's just an acronym for remember what is in the model.
It sounds like a disease, Jakob.
Polism, yeah, you don't want to have that. It's a very good model, and we kind of built on top of that to create some ways to do it in Business Now. But remember, the business model is the why and the who, and you could say the operating model is the how.
Great. So the digital strategy journey continues with actually defining an improvement plan and to take action and execute these improvement actions. And whether you do it as a traditional project or whether you do it in a more agile fashion, ITIL recommends in the book that you consider using the more modern and adaptable methods for achieving your strategic objectives. But talking about strategic objectives, we present here a model of how, when you define your goals and create your roadmap, what is it actually you want to achieve? And this is like the Maslow pyramid, but for organizations, where you can say, perhaps you should consider creating and defining objectives on the lower level, let's say the lower 3 levels, about being able to survive, being able to build relationships, and being able to improve your performance. These are all basic capabilities in order to achieve long-term success. But over time, our whole value perception and perception of purpose is developing at least in a developed society, to say it's also important to have goals, vision, and objective about being authentic, open, creative, involving ourselves in communities, in our near communities and in far communities, and also on SoMe and etc. And ultimately creating objectives about the purpose of being here as an organization, to be of service to society, to be responsible and aware of future generations, etc. So this is all part of a long journey about how organizations are evolving their success criteria and which outcomes they want to achieve. And this is inspiration for perhaps looking at this when defining objectives for your organization for the next iteration of the strategic journey.
Yeah, I like this model a lot also. I think it's called the Barrett model.
Yes.
Okay, in the end of the digital strategy journey, we of course want to know if we got there. Did we get there steps? And also if we are ready to take another round. So how do we keep the momentum going?
Yes, and one clear and maybe for you not quite new recommendation here is that what we want to review here is both to use an outside-in perspective on our organization and an inside-out perspective. So the whole ITIL 4 body of knowledge is very much focused on developing and helping organizations to strengthen their outside-in perspective on whatever they're doing. If the customers and the users are feeling unhappy, then whatever you're doing and however efficient you may be, it doesn't really matter. So we really need to know and be interested continuously in how our customers, how our end users, how our citizens, if we are a municipality, how they are perceiving the services that we're providing, and use that to drive priorities and actions. And of course, also look inside out, the internal organization view, measuring our performance and how we are working efficiently to meet customer needs. So this is a recommendation in order to inspire us to conduct a strategy review when we have been through one iteration of the strategy journey, and say, we want to, with the strategy journey, to ensure the ongoing relevance and effectiveness of strategy. What did we achieve, and what in our environment has changed? What in our perspective has changed? Have we sort of evolved our success criteria? What have we learned that we can bring further on in the next generation, the next iteration, to keep the momentum going, to gain insight in whatever intelligence, emotions, experience, and feelings we may have. And this is quite new in ITIL, to talk about emotions and feelings. That this is actually as important as the more objectively measurable stuff that we're used to working with. So to ask, to listen, to observe, please jump back, Jakob, you were too quick there, to empathize are really important steps to take and bring into a strategy review. Emotional, social, system intelligence are required in order to ensure that we continuously adapt to our own purpose and vision, and our environment and communities. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I switched too fast. We have 10 minutes left.
Yes. Okay, so the sort of context for doing that is that we are living in a so-called VUCA environment, which means that we have to deal with an environment with high volatility, which is speed of change, uncertainty. It's actually difficult to predict what will happen if we do one or the other, and it's difficult to predict who will become the next president of the United States or whatever. So it's sort of we're dealing with a high degree of uncertainty and complexity, meaning that the number of moving parts is constantly growing. And ambiguity means that it's difficult to interpret whatever we are sensing and knowing how to make sense of that. And in order to deal with qualities, ITIL recommends that we as an organization move in the direction of more lean and agile ways of working. So yes, thank you.
So now we come to we are kind of finished with the digital strategy journey model, the way the book was built by having all these chapters. In the book, also in the course as well, there are a section on digital leadership, and that's what we want to talk a bit about before we are finished. So digital leadership would, in the presentation here, we kind of pinpointed 4 different areas. You can see that to the left, and Søren and I will try something new. We would switch back and forth in the slide. So let's see how that works. First, you could say, what is the role of the digital leader? And we will point to something about doing relationship management. As you may have known before, it was something very difficult to find out who was actually doing that, and what kind of role is that in a company or in an IT department. And I always have said, if nobody else is having that role, it's the CTO or the COO. So practicing relationship management rely on alignment between the IT and the rest of the business, and being responsible for both the digital and IT strategy. And as Søren said, ensuring the ongoing relevance, meaning looping around in the digital, in the strategy journey.
And to be a successful digital leader, it's a requirement that we have a digital mindset. Digital mindset is not only about knowing about technology, not at all, or perhaps partly, but it's about having a way of lead, which is servant leadership, where we know that we have to relinquish control to teams, because if we are too hierarchical, we are too slow to sense and perceive changes that we need to take into consideration when executing our strategic plan or the strategy roadmap. So as a digital leader, we need to have focus on how can we remove constraints, much like as a practical example, how a Scrum Master is there to provide on a local level leadership and remove constraints and leave it up to the team to actually do their work and challenge the way things work and say, I have a better idea of how things can be done. And then we should measure outcomes instead of whether people are working this or that hours, but what are the outcomes of the work that is being done?
Okay. Ooh, nice PowerPoint effect, Søren. This is a model made by a guy from Estonia called Kaimar Kadu, and this is only part of his model work. It really says something about how you can incorporate emerging technology, meaning things that you don't do today in your today's challenges, and it was definitely not part of yesterday's business. Thank you, Michelle. But it may be part of your tomorrow's development. So this small red corner here is saying maybe this emerging technology only fills 1/10 of your today's challenges, but you have to find out how to use and integrate emerging technologies, and that should be part of your digital strategy. So because tomorrow it may fill up half of your tomorrow's developments. So that's maybe a bit difficult to explain, but it shows you how new technology will need to be something there in order for you to integrate in your company's strategy.
Okay, and just shortly about the digital skill set, I want to say that a business leader today who is not interested in digitalization or digital transformation may soon be yesterday's leader and not tomorrow's leader. So digital skill set, not as something in the IT organization, but as something in the business organization, the customer facing part of the organization. Yes.
Great. So final slide I want to show you is just a key takeaway. You got an overview of the digital and IT strategy, both the book and the course. We presented you with a walkthrough of the strategy journey as exemplified through the continual improvement model. You also got to know some of the models. I have to say there are a number of other models, but you got to know some: gap analysis, business model, operating model, and the last one I showed you with the emerging technology. These are some examples. Then we also discussed what is the digital leadership, what's the mindset, what's the skills and behaviors for the digital leader. All right, and just to give you a short sales speak that we have a course coming up in February. It's this digital and IT strategy course. It's run on 3 non-consecutive days. It's a very friendly schedule, I would say, but it's still something you have to invest in because we only do 4 hours per day, and then you have some group exercises. If you're interested, yeah.
Jakob, who will teach this course?
That's a great question, Søren. I will teach the course, and Søren will do the correction of the assignments and probably co-teach. But I'm glad you asked. We have this course already on the homepage, and I may be wrong, but I don't think you can find it anywhere else in Denmark besides us. But please join, and we need to explain to you what kind of prerequisites you need to have in order before joining this course. But we will take that.
Yeah, Jakob.
Sure.
There was just a question. It says, like, can you tell a bit more about like the content of the course? Like, can you say a bit more than what you just said?
I can elaborate that you get the book, this book that Søren presented. You have 4 assignments that you do during the course. You have to pass the assignments, and then you have a final multiple choice. But be aware, it's not a test that ends the course. You have the assignments during the course. So actually the way it's built up is that you have 5 things you have to pass during the course. 4 during the course and 1 after the course, and you get a voucher for that. So 80% is passed when you're done with the 3 days.
All right. And also I can add that this page that you're talking about is on our website, and I will share the link to this description of the course in the email that you all receive tomorrow, so that it's easy for you to find. Then you can read some more about it if you want.
And now Michelle ruined our time plan because we were on time.
Yay!
Okay, so also we have an IT asset management webinar coming up February 4th, and it's actually only 30 minutes, but it's just to give you a short introduction to IT asset management, because in Business Now, we are continuously surprised with how this subject is sort of growing, the number of people interested, and we're quite overwhelmed with this webinar that has been announced just a week ago, and the number of interested that have signed up for it. So this seems to be at least as hot a topic as the digital and IT strategy topic, and we're both very enthusiastic about both webinars. So this will be on February the 4th if you are interested. And IT asset management is actually relevant for all organizations working with information security and with IT in general. Thank you.
Yes, I guess this part is mine, right, guys?
Yes.
Yes. So now I talked about this quick poll. We would like to get some feedback on how we're doing, something about how relevant it is, and if you get what you expected, and if you like the way it is presented. So I'll just do this quick, share this quick poll with you. And we will be very happy if you would just take the time to answer these questions, one being not really great and 5 fit like a glove-ish. So yeah, just please fill out these questions, and maybe also think about questions for the topic that we just went through.
I was going to say fit like a glove, but apparently I can't vote.
Yeah, I removed those.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Maybe next time you can try. Yeah, I think. Oh, this is really nice. Thank you guys for voting, because this means that we can get better at this. We need the feedback to learn what's going on. You're being very generous, I think. That's nice. Yeah, so I'll just give it 20 more seconds. And maybe you guys have some like finishing like points or anything you want to say before I go to like wrapping up and the practical boring stuff. Is there anything, because people I don't have questions right now, maybe because they're voting.
Yeah, I actually have an additional sort of perspective on the digital and IT strategy, which is that even though ITIL's in the book, it is written what the target group is, I would say that anyone working in IT might be interested, because where do you want to be in 2-3 years time, or maybe even a longer time ahead of you, even if you are sort of a technical expert now, and also to understand the purpose of initiatives that may come from the business leaders, and understand how you as a technical expert can underpin whatever initiatives come from the business leaders. So this is very relevant if you're interested in how digital technology can support and even be an integrated part of the business or organization you're in.
We actually got thank you, Søren, sorry. We actually got a question. When it's self-described as a service provider, does it encourage collaboration and innovation? When IT self-described as a service provider, does it encourage collaboration and innovation?
Is it you or me, Jakob?
Go ahead, Søren.
I don't know if this answers the question, but since we're talking about the ITIL digital and IT strategy here, I think it's very relevant to emphasize that the whole ITIL 4 body of knowledge is based on a premise of collaboration and openness and transparency. And it's one of the 7 guiding principles of ITIL, actually, to collaborate and it's very much, if you see, if you have an separate IT organization, then collaboration means that you are sitting together with the business and taking a shared responsibility for whatever results and outcomes that you're creating together.
Yes.
I hope that answered the question.
It was a good answer, no matter what you answered. It was a good answer. Yeah, so we're actually at the timestamp 10:45 now. So I'll just quickly say that, as I said earlier, you will get an email tomorrow, as the same place where you got all the reminders for the webinar. So you'll get an email tomorrow with all the relevant links and contact information. And this will be uploaded to our YouTube channel as well tomorrow. Please follow our LinkedIn page, where we always share the latest knowledge, the latest webinars, whatever is happening. And I think that was what I needed to say to you guys. So keep an eye out for our LinkedIn page, YouTube channel, and your inbox, and you will get more information. And thank you so much to you guys for sharing this knowledge. And thanks everyone that listened. We are so happy you want to listen to what we have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a nice day.